A drug investigation at a local eatery nets 4 arrests. The Department of Public Works is getting some new equipment, and Cape Cod Community College is closed while some work is being done. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, December 23rd, 2014. I'm Sarah Mannel. Four men are arrested following a lengthy investigation into drug activity at the Shanghai restaurant in Hyannis. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin gets details from Police Chief Paul McDonald.
I want to talk about, I think, something that's been making the news over the weekend was the bust at the Shanghai restaurant in Hyannis. And tell me a little bit about, why the investigation came about and then what the result was.
This was an investigation that was started by the street crime unit, who, as you know, works primarily in and around Main Street, Hyannis. These individuals who were dealing out of Shanghai, they were not trying to conceal their operation. They were not trying to hide it. It was very out in the open. They then eventually, back in September, put the establishment under surveillance. They then decided to put an undercover person in there to see if they could make some purchases. The investigation then continued for 3 months. They made 12 narcotic purchases from 8 different individuals. The decision was made that they would then execute the arrest warrants back on last Friday night, which they did. 2 individuals were at the establishment. They were arrested there. One was arrested down in Dennis. One turned himself into court yesterday, and they are actively out looking for the other 4 individuals.
Amazing, and just really what I'm in reading some of the details of what happened, Chief. It's kind of amazing that these deals weren't really happening behind closed doors. It was really out there in the open.
Right. I mean, we have it. We brought some sophisticated electronic equipment in. We have it audio and video, and the way it was happening was really right out in the opening. And the proprietors who actually run Shanghai, they had to know what was going on there, and that's why subsequently we're going to bring them in for a show cause hearing, I believe, on January 12th to go after the liquor license. I mean, this is out of control down there. And as you know, we are having a problem with narcotics, particularly in the east end of Hyannis. We've had a number of overdoses in the past couple of months, and a substantial number of them have happened down the east end, and a lot of the drugs are coming through Shanghai.
Indeed. And so can we talk a little bit more about the proprietors? Obviously, they're going to be before the licensing authority for a show cause hearing, but is there any perhaps a criminal investigation in knowing this kind of stuff is going on in your establishment and really not doing anything about it?
Well, we are looking at that, see if they can be charged with accessory before or after the fact. We're not sure we can do that. We are talking with the district attorney's office. We're not sure there's enough to prosecute them in a criminal court, but we certainly can hold them responsible at a licensing hearing because they are licensed through the town of Barnstable, and they are in control of their establishment, and it's a violation of their rules and regulations to allow any type of illegal activity to go on while any time, but particularly while the place is open.
Indeed, and will you continue to keep the Shanghai under surveillance while this is going on?
Yes, absolutely. We're still in there. We're still looking at it right now. Supposedly, we have the cooperation of the people who do own the Shanghai, but what good is that now? So it's still an ongoing investigation. It's going to go on till we get the next 4 individuals. Then we're going to debrief them and see what we have to do next.
Sure. And Chief, are the individuals that have been arrested, are these ones that you've known to be dealers in other parts of town, or is this solely in connection with the Shanghai?
These are all frequent flyers. They've all been arrested numerous times. They're all well known to police officers, but they could definitely be characterized as definitely street level dealers. Basically, they sell enough of the product so they can sustain their own habits.
Indeed. Well, certainly we'll keep an eye on this story, Chief. As we look back over the week, obviously that's the big story. Anything else that occurred that you'd like to
Well, the
share?
other big thing is we look like we're in the running to get a grant. I know you mentioned it earlier for the Community Impact Unit for additional training and the outreach work, a clinician to work with us, with our officers out on the street. As we're getting deeper and deeper into this with the Community Impact Unit, we're dealing with mostly the homeless population around Hyannis. We've noticed that additional training is needed for the police officers, we've sent the Community Impact Unit those 3 officers to crisis intervention training and other mental health training. But this grant has become available where we can train additional officers, and I think that's part of the way where law enforcement is going. We deal with that quite a bit.
Absolutely, and especially with the Community Impact Unit dealing with those issues on Main Street, I think a lot of the issues that they deal with do involve people who are dealing with some mental health issues, dealing with some substance abuse issues. So to be able to have that clinician and that training certainly will go a long way to kind of helping solve the problem, and I would assume maybe dealing better with the repeat offenders on Main Street.
Right. We're not trying. We know we're not going to arrest our way out of this. So this is an alternative to arresting them or putting them in jail. Is finding out what the problem is and hooking them up with the appropriate services that can actually help these individuals.
And Chief McDonald is reminding residents to drive carefully and not to overindulge over the holidays. Town Council recently approved a $60,000 funding request for cemetery equipment. DPW Director Dan Santos says the equipment will be used to maintain the town's 14 cemeteries.
When the town took over the actual management of the cemetery system, there was a contractor had done it up until 1999, and since then we've done it with town employees. They set up a special reserve fund so that money that we get by selling burial plots, and they are sold to residents in the town, that money goes into a special fund that we can use for capital improvements and equipment as needed. So we don't have to compete with other parts of the town to get equipment that's really needed for this function. And so that money is there, and every now and again when we need some funds, we ask for a transfer, and the town council has to approve that. And so that's what we did last week, and we got $69,000 for a new tractor and a new trailer and repairing a lowering device and some other miscellaneous equipment.
The Department of Public Works also recently constructed a new columbarium where residents can purchase a space for an urn.
And these are typically above-ground structures which have niches where remains that are cremated, so the urns would be stored, permanently in these niches. And so we've just constructed one, and we have 96 spots, and they can accommodate two urns or 2 sets of remains. And so we've just completed that project, and we're going through the process of figuring out what the fee schedule is going to be and what we're going to charge for these, so that we can start using them in the very near future. But these are good because it allows folks that have their loved ones cremated a place to put those remains, and it also is generally a much more economical option. But primarily, it saves space. I mean, we're going to run out of space, not only here but everywhere, for burials, and so these take up much less space to deal with interments, and they actually call them inurnments.
Santos says it will be easy to add on to the columbarium built in Barnstable.
In the design of this, we accommodated expansion, so it's a large round landscape medallion, and one of in this unit is on the outside of that diameter or the circumference of that big circle, and so we can add more of these around there over time. And I think in this location, up to a little over 400 niches can be put in there, so we can expand 3 times what we have there. So we'll see what the popularity is, but I suspect, after doing some research in other communities and in the nearby, that they are popular. I know this is something that's been done to great degree at the veteran cemeteries across the country.
Santos says the columbarium spaces can be engraved with names and dates, much like a gravestone. Water main work at Cape Cod Community College is being done this week, meaning the college will be closed until January 2nd. The college's water system hasn't been upgraded since the school was built in the early 70s. All campus activities are closed down from now until January 2nd. Any changes will be posted online at capecod.edu. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will highlight some of our favorite moments during 2014. We will have a special visitor and we'll have some great holiday greetings from Town Hall staff. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.